The desert highway stretched endlessly under the burning afternoon sun, a thin ribbon of asphalt cutting through silence and heat waves. Engines roared in the distance before a group of bikers came into view, riding in formation like they owned the road. Leather jackets, heavy boots, loud laughter, and the kind of confidence that came from years of living fast and hard. They pulled into a dusty roadside diner, the kind of place where truckers stopped and nobody asked too many questions. As the engines died down, the sudden quiet felt heavy. A few locals glanced up, then quickly looked away. Everyone knew better than to stare. Inside, the air smelled of fried food and old coffee. The bikers took over the corner tables, their presence filling the room. Jokes were loud, laughter louder. Then the door opened again. A teenage girl walked in. She looked out of place immediately. Not just because she was alone, but because of what she was wearing. An oversized biker jacket, clearly too big for her frame, sleeves slightly rolled, shoulders hanging loose. Her jeans were worn, her boots dusty, and her expression calm but distant. At first, no one paid much attention. Then one of the bikers noticed. "Hey," he nudged his friend, grinning. "Look at that." Another turned, then another. Within seconds, the whole table was watching her. "Kid thinks she's one of us," someone chuckled. "Where'd she steal that jacket from?" Another added. Their laughter spread across the diner. The girl didn't react. She walked to the counter, sat down quietly, and ordered a glass of water. Her voice was steady, almost too steady for someone her age. But the laughter didn't stop. "Hey, little rider," one of them called out. "You lost or just playing dress up?" More laughter. She slowly turned her head, her eyes meeting theirs. There was no fear in her expression. That alone made a few of them shift slightly, though they didn't show it. "Just passing through," she said calmly. "Passing through." Another biker smirked. "On what?" "A bicycle." The room filled with laughter again. She didn't respond this time. Instead, she turned back to the counter, fingers lightly tapping against the glass as she waited for her water. One of the older bikers, a man with gray in his beard and scars that told stories no one wanted to hear, leaned back in his chair, studying her. He hadn't laughed. Not once. Something about her felt wrong. Not in a bad way. Just unusual. "Leave it," he muttered to the others, though they barely listened. The girl took a slow sip of water, her movements controlled, deliberate. As she shifted slightly on the stool, the back of her jacket turned just enough to reveal a patch. But no one noticed it yet. Not clearly. Not fully. Outside, the wind picked up dust along the road, swirling it into the air like a warning no one could hear. Inside, the laughter continued. For now, the jokes went on longer than they should have. "Bet she doesn't even know how to ride," one biker said, leaning back with a smirk. "Probably watched a movie and thought it looked cool," another added. The girl remained silent, her focus fixed on the glass in front of her. But her grip tightened ever so slightly. The older biker stood up slowly. "Enough," he said, his voice low but firm. This time, the table quieted. Not because they agreed, but because when he spoke like that, it meant something. He walked toward the girl, his boots heavy against the wooden floor. A few people in the diner held their breath, unsure what would happen next. He stopped beside her. "You riding alone?" he asked. She nodded once. "Where you headed?" "North," she replied. "Long way," he said. "I know." There was a pause. Then he noticed it. The patch. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't large. But it carried weight. His eyes narrowed slightly as he leaned just enough to see it clearly. And in that moment, everything changed. The patch wasn't just a design. It was a symbol. One that very few people recognized, but those who did, never forgot. His expression shifted from curiosity to something deeper. Respect. Even caution. "You boys," he said without turning around, "come take a look at this." The others groaned at first, thinking it was another joke. But something in his tone made them get up anyway. One by one, they walked closer. And then they saw it. The laughter stopped instantly. No one said a word. The air in the diner felt heavier, like the temperature had dropped without warning. "That's not," one of them whispered. "It is," another replied, quieter. The patch carried the mark of a club that didn't exist anymore. Not officially. Not publicly. But everyone in that world knew the name. A club that had disappeared years ago after something went very wrong. A club that people didn't joke about. A club tied to stories of loyalty, loss, and something far darker than most could handle. The girl finally turned around fully, letting them see it clearly now. "Problem?" she asked. No one answered. The same men who had been laughing just moments ago now looked uneasy. The older biker stepped back slightly, giving her space. "Where did you get that?" he asked. She held his gaze. "It was my father's." Silence. A long, heavy silence. "Your father," one of them began, but stopped himself. The older biker exhaled slowly. "What was his name?" he asked. She hesitated for a brief moment. Then she said it. And the room changed again. A name that carried history. A name that none of them expected to hear again. A name that explained everything. One of the bikers took a step back. Another looked toward the door, as if suddenly aware of how far they were from safety. The older biker nodded slowly. "I thought so," he said quietly. The girl turned back to her drink, as if nothing had happened. But everything had. And now, no one was laughing anymore. The tension in the diner didn't fade. It settled. Heavy. Unmoving. The kind of silence that carried meaning. The girl finished her water, placed the glass gently on the counter, and stood up. Her movements were calm, but there was a quiet strength in them now that everyone could feel. No one tried to stop her. No one made another joke. As she walked toward the door, the bikers instinctively moved aside, clearing a path without a word. Respect had replaced mockery. But also, curiosity. And something close to fear. Just before stepping outside, she paused. "You don't have to worry," she said without turning around. "I'm not here for any of you." That didn't comfort them as much as she probably intended. Because if she wasn't there for them, then who? She stepped out into the sunlight, the heat wrapping around her as the door swung shut behind her. A moment later, the older biker followed. He found her standing beside a motorcycle parked near the edge of the lot. It wasn't flashy, but it was solid. Built for distance, not for show. "You ride that alone?" he asked. She nodded. "You're a long way from home." "I don't have one anymore," she replied. He studied her for a moment. "Your father, he was a good man," he said. She looked at him then. "You knew him." "Not personally," he admitted. "But I knew of him." That was enough. She looked down at the patch briefly, her fingers brushing against it. "They said a lot of things about him," she said quietly. "They always do," the older biker replied. "About men like that." She took a deep breath. "I'm not here to follow his path," she said. "I just needed to understand it." He nodded slowly. "Be careful," he said. "Some paths don't let you walk away once you step on them." She met his gaze. "I already stepped on it," she said. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she got on her bike, started the engine, and adjusted her jacket. The patch caught the sunlight for just a second. A symbol of a past that refused to stay buried. "You got a name?" he asked over the sound of the engine. She paused. Then, just before pulling away, she answered. "It doesn't matter," she said. "Not yet." And then she rode off. The older biker watched until she disappeared down the highway, the sound of her engine fading into the distance. Back inside, the others were still quiet. "Well?" one of them finally asked. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he lit a cigarette, took a slow drag, and exhaled. "Some stories," he said, "aren't over." They didn't ask anything else. Because they understood. The girl wasn't just passing through. She was carrying something with her. Something bigger than all of them. And somewhere down that endless road, that story was still waiting to unfold.